Research report on the Mafftopia news speedrun, cognitive and emotional demands of black humour processing, the role of intelligence, aggressiveness and mood. But note, this takes us right back to 2017, so it's not exactly hot news. We do have the scientific paper as well from 2017, if I can bring that up.
Please like the video, comment, and subscribe for fascinating science news.
Cognitive and emotional demands of black humour processing, the role of intelligence, aggressiveness, and mood. Don't want to get too much into the weeds on the details of this, but it does specify cluster analysis. Cluster analysis yields 3 groups comprising the following properties: moderate black humour preference and moderate comprehension, average non-verbal and verbal intelligence, low mood disturbance and moderate aggressiveness. Okay. Low black humour preference and moderate comprehension, average non-verbal and verbal intelligence, high mood disturbance and high aggressiveness. Then 3, how far does 3 go to? Probably there. So high black humour preference and high comprehension, high non-verbal and verbal intelligence, no mood disturbance and low aggressiveness. Age and gender do not differ significantly. Differences in education level can be found. Black humour preference and comprehension are positively associated with higher verbal and non-verbal intelligence, as well as higher levels of education. Emotional instability and higher aggressiveness apparently lead to decreased levels of pleasure when dealing with black humour. So these results support the hypothesis that humour processing involves cognitive as well as affective components, and suggest that these variables influence the execution of frame shifting and conceptual blending in the course of humour processing. In other words, smart people find dark humour funny. They do go on to define what they mean by black humour, so treating sinister subjects like death, disease, deformity, handicap or warfare with bitter amusement, gallows humour, and presents such tragic, distressing or morbid topics in humorous terms. Black humour, often called grotesque, morbid, gallows, yay, or sick humour, is used to express the absurdity, insensitivity, paradox and cruelty of the modern world. Yeah, it's a coping mechanism. Characters or situations are usually exaggerated far beyond the limits of normal satire or irony, potentially requiring increased cognitive efforts to get the joke. So there's that. We can look at a report of this. So again, keep in mind this is back in 2017. Scientists have linked higher intelligence to an appreciation of dark humour based on a small study. This is the thing, spoiler alert, a small study that investigated the complex information processing that's involved in interpreting a sick joke. But the study also found that those who are most in tune with dark humour had the lowest scores for aggression and bad mood. So the team, back in the day, from the Medical University of Vienna, said, these findings support the notion that humour processing depends on cognitive as well as emotional aspects, and suggests that this also accounts for black humour processing, which seems to be a complex information processing task. Didn't we just? I guess we actually just read that out from the paper. This is the thing though. The researchers recruited 156 male and female volunteers with an average age of 33, and asked them to rate their comprehension and enjoyment of 12 dark humour cartoons taken from The Black Book by German cartoonist Uli Stein. For example, one of the cartoons is set in a morgue where a physician lifts the sheet off a body for a woman to identify. Sure, that's my husband, she says. Anyway, which washing powder did you use to get that so white? It's probably also in the delivery, right? Alzheimer's patients. Here is the answering machine of the Self-Help Association for Alzheimer Patients. If you still remember your topic, please speak after the tone. I don't find that very funny, to be honest. Again, maybe it's just in the delivery. Like a scientific paper that sets out to understand humour, dissect it, just does tend to make the humour distinctly unfunny. It's just one of those things, isn't it? When you explain a joke, it ain't funny anymore. But yeah, that paper was really widely reported back at the time. People liked to see it. Oh, I like dark humour, therefore I must have a high IQ. It says right here. So of course that's going to do the rounds, and it's going to stay doing the rounds, which is obviously why, even like now, 2026, we're seeing it still being reported, still appearing on X and the like. Luckily, there is this sort of thing. I was going to say this is a bit more recent, 2018, moving it along a little bit. But the thing about this study was that it did go into more detail. There's a bit more finesse to it, I'd say. Broadening humour, let's zoom in a bit. Broadening humour, comic styles differentially tap into temperament, character and ability. This study introduces 8 comic styles: fun, humour, nonsense, wit, irony, satire, sarcasm and cynicism, and it basically assesses them for validity with a set of 48 marker items called the comic style markers, or CSMs. These styles were originally developed to describe literary work and are used here to describe individual differences. Yeah, so there's more to it with this. Humour research has to accommodate that people habitually differ in terms of humour behaviours, quantitatively, some people show more humour production, appreciation, etc. than others, and qualitatively, so people indulge in different forms in humour. The other aspect, of course, is that if somebody is in a bad mood on that day, or they've just got something on their mind, they're not going to find something funny at that moment. There's very much that aspect that makes this not so much a binary, do they find this dark joke funny or not? Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. To give it a bit more finesse, you could more divide this into, oh, this person just found this joke funny, okay, versus this person just isn't ever going to find this joke funny. So they would really have to dig into that a bit more and find a way to differentiate. What was their conclusion? Do they actually... Yeah, let's go to the conclusion. In 2 studies, we presented and tested the comic style markers, a set of 48 marker items, blah, 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 and the 8 comic styles. Both studies supported the construct validity of the CSM. Specifically, the 8 comic styles were shown to be theoretically and empirically distinguishable. Da-da-da! And to relate to different outcomes, personality, character strengths, and intelligence. The CSM thus provides a starting point for more fine-grained investigations of humour-related styles. In other words, they've established a baseline that they could then carry forward into subsequent studies. So that was a marginally more recent study. After that, then, luckily there is something that makes this a bit more newsworthy right now, and that is this. Springer Nature, hooray, to the rescue. On 27th of March 2026, just recently, they published this paper from Zoe Stevenson. Congratulations on getting that published. So this is Exploring Individual Differences in the Use and Endorsement of Dark Comic Styles, a systematic review of comic style markers, CSM studies. So dark humour, it says, let's zoom in, dark humour has often been studied either as a broad construct or through the 2 darker humour styles identified by Martin et al. 2003, long time ago. Previous reviews have synthesised findings using the Humour Styles questionnaire, yet no review has focused on the more fine-grained comic style markers, the only standardised tool that distinguishes 4 dark comic styles: sarcasm, cynicism, irony, and satire. I'm glad they are now narrowed down to those 4. It's just a bit more with it. But this is still better than just dark humour or not dark humour, good middle ground. The present systematic review addresses this gap by synthesising findings from 21 empirical studies. This sort of thing is a study of studies. An entire study can be just dismissed as an outlier if needed, if it's just clearly wrong or it just doesn't correlate at all with the other studies or with the author's opinion or whatever. So this review then aims to clarify how these 4 dark styles relate to individual differences, including personality traits, well-being, are they in a bad mood on that day? How are they feeling? How are you? That sort of thing. And demographic factors. Do people with red hair like dark humour as much as people with dark hair, for example? The world needs to know, and to examine whether dark humour should be regarded solely as a marker of antagonism or whether certain forms also reflect more adaptive qualities. Sarcasm and cynicism were most consistently associated with socially aversive traits, lower agreeableness, and poorer well-being outcomes, while irony showed mixed associations. Yeah, there's a bit more smartiness, I think, to irony. So sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, I've been told. And cynicism, where it's being used in a humorous way, or just outright cynicism. In either case, it's probably not good. It is a flawed character trait, one to be expunged from oneself, I would think. Irony showed mixed associations at times linked to anxiety and negative effect, but also to insight and meaning. Satire appeared more contextually flexible, sometimes relating to interpersonal or intellectual strengths. Demographic patterns indicated higher endorsement of dark styles. In other words, these people found the dark humour funnier and just approved of it, I guess. More of a ha 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 type of a reaction rather than a ha, now that's funny. Yeah. Endorsement of dark styles among men, younger adults, and those with more critical or non-traditional worldviews, while little evidence was found for links with intelligence or resilience. Damn. So, overall, the findings suggested that dark humour is a psychologically meaningful but diverse construct. Certain styles align with antagonism or distress, whereas others may reflect creativity, critical reflection, or adaptive coping. These results highlight the importance of moving beyond broad definitions of dark humour to examine its distinct forms, with implications for personality research, well-being, and how people engage with dark humour, dark comedy in contemporary culture. Yeah, so in other words, a bit more nuance there. So my own feeling is that given there are distinct types of intelligence, EQ, etc., it would be reasonable that someone with an advanced sense of dark humour, right, that itself does require the ability to create and understand abstractions, because so many people take offence to dark humour because they just see it as a direct kind of attack on whatever thing. So like the thing about the Alzheimer's joke or the woman identifying her husband in the morgue, they could view that as, oh, harmful stereotype. The woman is the one who's obsessed about getting the laundry even whiter. So that's where her mind goes. Or, oh, somebody died. How can you find that funny? And so on. They go there rather than just finding it funny. So that there's that link. The brain is just wired up to go to a particular place. But also being able to abstract from that, abstract from the actual nastiness and just see it as a hypothetical situation. There's quite a difference between that, say, and finding an actual situation funny. Somebody falls over and breaks their arm. If there's somebody on the side who's just falling over laughing at that because it happened in some comical way or simply because it happened, that's something else entirely. But yeah, so really just the ability to abstract from the situation, but also to link concepts together, often quite complex concepts, to just follow the trail of breadcrumbs so that they actually get to the joke. There will always be some people who just don't get particular types of humour because for whatever reason, their brains are just not wired up in the way that they join the dots, essentially, the dots being the breadcrumbs. So they don't join up the breadcrumb dots to reach the conclusion and thus find the joke funny. I get it, I really do. I got that one. But yeah, so there are distinct types of intelligence, EQ, etc. And the other aspect then is understanding the difference between what's actually humorous and what genuinely isn't. Because some attempts at humour just don't work because they're just not very funny for whatever reason. That there's such subtlety there. And also between what's actually humorous, what's clever, witty or whatever, and what might just be sick or gross or whatever. In addition to being able to do all of that, the person who's getting and then appreciating the dark humour would also possess, surely, a number of other types of intelligence, because it takes certain types of intelligence to get and appreciate the joke in the first place. So it also follows that their brain is probably going to have a whole bundle of other types of intelligence just stuffed in there as well. And sometimes that may show up as high IQ as one of the types of intelligence, sometimes maybe not. And that's about it, really. This is actually my first attempt at one of these Mafftopia science news speedruns. Planning to do a lot of these quite regularly. Do let me know if this format works, just like a single topic, just a quick reaction to something I've seen in the news or on social media or whatever, and a quick video about it. Hopefully more informed than just a bloke down the pub ranting away type of a reaction. Probably not far off that, to be honest. Thanks so much for watching this far, and do get subscribed, and there'll be a YouTube playlist for these as well, so do follow that playlist. Oh, and do leave a comment as well. Let me know what you think. Till next time, bye!
電子の海へと取り込め進化の先へ未来はすぐそこにマフトピアクリプトで世界を変え